All right, Muhammad was both a prophet and a statesman, and Islam has been both a faith and a political system. So Muslims see this modern idea of separation of church and state as kind of an affront to their ideal worldview. So the golden age, so-called golden age of Islam, consists of the following periods: the four rightly guided caliphs for about 30 years. These are the first four successors to the Prophet Muhammad. And then under the Umayyad dynasty, the caliphate becomes dynastic to one family. The Umayyad dynasty was supplanted by the Abbasid dynasty, which was a really glittering, successful civilization. Within 1 century after the death of the Prophet, Islam stretched from North Africa to Southeast Asia, spreading Islamic ideas of community and citizenship. All of this success started with the community in Medina. That period, as well as that of the four rightly guided caliphs, was and still is the model for the perfect community, which unfortunately has never been replicated. The Ummah is the community of believers is divided roughly into two groups: Sunni and Shia. Shia are a small minority, 15% to Sunnis 85%. I've seen different numbers, but it's always right around that. Sunnis are so called because they follow the Sunnah. And they want to choose the leader who best exemplifies the Sunnah, which is the example of the Prophet, which is the perfect example of how to do submission. So the Sunni elected Abu Bakr upon the death of Muhammad. He only reigned for a few years because he was a contemporary in age of the Prophet. They were best friends. They believed leadership should pass the most qualified person. It was clearly Abu Bakr. The Caliph was both a military and a political ruler. While not a prophet, he had some spiritual prestige as the leader of the Ummah. Sort of like the Byzantine emperor was the head of the church, but he wasn't really a clerical figure. A significant minority of the Ummah would come to be called Shias, which means the party of Ali. So the Shias opposed Abu Bakr's selection, believing that the succession should stay hereditary and within the Prophet's family. The Shia therefore believed that Ali should be leader or imam. He was Muhammad's first cousin. He was much younger, but he was the son of Abu Talib. So they had grown up in the same household, and he was like a beloved little brother. To bind his family together, Muhammad married his daughter Fatima to Ali, his first cousin. So yes, Fatima and Ali were second cousins. That's not weird. Eleanor Roosevelt and Franklin Roosevelt were cousins. Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth are cousins. Queen Victoria is a descendant for both of them, so it's not weird. Shias believed that this hereditary imam, notice I'm using a capital I, more about that later, while not a prophet, is divinely inspired, sinless, and infallible. Kind of like the Pope to Roman Catholics. So for Shias, the imam is both a political and a religious leader and serves as the final authoritative interpreter of God's will. Now, Ali was passed over for Caliph 3 times because of his age. Finally, however, he took the role after waiting for 35 years. He's the 4th of the 4 rightly guided caliphs, but he was assassinated only a few years later. So upon Ali's death, a general and governor of Damascus named Muawiyah, who he had challenged Ali's leadership, he took over as caliph and established the Umayyad dynasty. In 680, Ali's son Hussein, so Hussein would have been the grandson of the Prophet through his mother Fatima. He led a rebellion to recover the caliphate. He and his forces were slaughtered by the Umayyad army at Karbala, a city that still exists in present-day Iraq. The memory of this battle and the martyrdom of Hussein gave the Shia a paradigm of suffering and protest that have informed Shias ever since. Although Sunnis and Shias share many of the same beliefs and practices, their political struggles result in very, very different views of history. The Sunni majority remembers a golden age of Islamic empire, the so-called golden age. The success and power attained were seen as evidence of God's favor, an affirmation that the Ummah had created a just society. The Shia minority saw themselves as victims of an illegitimate usurpation of power by the Sunnis at the expense of a just society. Now, This is not just a theoretical, historical thing. This antipathy between these two groups is still seen today, and it's represented on the world stage by the enmity of Saudi Arabia and Iran. Saudi Arabia is the keeper of the holy places and very rich, and sort of sees itself as the leader of the Sunni world, whereas Iran, the most populous Shia nation, clearly sees itself as the Shia superpower, and it is. For Shias, therefore, history is the struggle of an oppressed and disinherited minority community. They want to restore God's leadership on earth under the Imam, their leader, their successor. The Shia did at times enjoy political power. There was the Fatimid dynasty in Egypt, was an impressive civilization. The Safawi dynasty in Iran. Safawi dynasty was, yet the latest incarnation of the Persian Empire. So Shia branches emerged. They divided basically on the succession. So you'd get to a disputed succession. One group would say it should be this guy. The other group would say it should be this guy. This has yielded different groups. And there are really three major branches. So the Fivers, also known as Zaydis, live principally in Yemen. They're a minority there, but a large one. So why Fivers? Well, it was the fifth successor, fifth imam that they, the group split on. They are an integral part of a brutal civil war, probably the greatest human tragedy in the last 5 years in Yemen, which is a proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran. The Severners are largely represented by the Ismailis, the followers of the Aga Khan, and live primarily in Pakistan and throughout a Western diaspora. So there's rarely an Ivy World Religions class without a few Ismailis in it. And the Aga Khan, they're the only Shia, I think, to have an actual living imam, the Aga Khan, who is, I think, the 49th direct descendant of the Prophet Muhammad. A lot of people are. I mean, he lived in this world, and his lineage was carefully preserved. The king of Jordan is a direct descendant of the Prophet Muhammad. Queen Elizabeth, actually, is a direct descendant of the Prophet Muhammad. So the Twelvers, also known as the Ithna Asharis, they're the largest Shia group. They're there are very few Muslims in Iran who aren't Twelvers. They also form a slight majority of Iraq and Bahrain, which problematically is ruled by a Sunni monarch. Twelver Muslims believe that the last, so where is their imam? Well, they believe that the last imam, the 12th, went into hiding or occultation. Occultation is an astronomic term as well. It means it's been eclipsed. The doctrine of the hidden imam, he's sort of hidden away. And he will return as a Mahdi. This is a messianic figure who will come at the end of time, restore the community to its rightful place, and usher in perfect Islamic society in which peace and justice will prevail. During the hidden imam's absence, the community is to be guided by religious experts. According to Twelvers, these are grand ayatollahs, a council of ayatollahs, who are principally the real rulers of Iran.